Hi, I'm Stewart Spinks and welcome to episode 347 of my podcast, Beekeeping Short and Sweet. This week, I'm joined by Natalie Armstrong, the inventor and designer of the Hive-Five Multiguard entrance, and we've got an absolute corker of an introduction to that interview. Beekeeping Short and Sweet, a beekeeping podcast for the inquisitive beekeeper with a short attention span. A beekeeper, in fact, just like me.
When you need a little peace of mind that your bees are safe from dangers of all kind. Pesticides, hornets, wasps and mice are no match for Hive-Five. The Hive-Five Multiguard is the best one in town. Keeps your bees safe all year round. The ultimate solution has been found. It's Hive-Five.
The Hive-Five Multiguard fits nearly all beehives and makes beekeeping much easier. Hive-Five.
Hi everyone, welcome to the podcast and that incredibly catchy jingle, which, if you listen to it a couple of times, I challenge anybody not to tap their feet or to kind of sit in their chair and dance. And I guess I really need to explain what that was all about. So I went to the BBKA Spring Convention and bumped into a lady called Natalie Armstrong, who is the designer of the Hive-Five Multiguard. And we got chatting about it. She very kindly gave me a couple of samples to take away and try. And we've been kind of messing around with them, looking to fit them into our Langstroth honeypore hives. And they look really, really good. So I thought it would be really interesting to have Natalie on the podcast to talk about really how these came about and really where she sees them going. So Natalie, I'll say good evening because we're chatting in the evening. It's great to see you. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Great to be here. Thank you.
These, first of all, congratulations on the jingle. It puts a smile on my face every time, and people are going to get to listen to that because I know that you're sponsoring the podcast as we move forward, so they'll hear that regularly. And again, I challenge them not to dance to it because it is a catchy little tune. But let's talk about you and your beekeeping first, because you're a beekeeper, and that's how this came about.
Yes. I've been beekeeping since 2019 and I'm on a farm with my now at the moment 13 hives and I have a full-time job. And as a beekeeper, as you know, you deal with everything from wasps to robbing bees. I'm on a farm, so I get a warning to say there's pesticides tomorrow. And protecting the hive it's just always been a challenge. And that's partly time and partly finding the frustration with going along 13 hives with entrance blocks and they never fitted the right ones and all of these kind of things started merging in my head. And the light bulb moment of there has to be an easier way happened. And yeah, so this is where it all came from.
And so, first off, how's your season going? Because it's been pretty good here in Norfolk. Whereabouts are you, Natalie?
So I'm in Kent. My bees are in a place called Penshurst in Kent.
Okay.
Very fortunately have a lovely spot, very safe. I'm not too far from Penshurst Place as well. So they go on the huge amounts of lavender down there as well.
Wow, lovely.
It's fantastic. It's a great place. I'm always guaranteed a crop because I'm on soft fruits. And this year is probably going to be my best year for a spring crop, I think. I think there's a lot of people out there who'll say, yes, absolutely. And we're all complaining, but not really complaining that our supers are filling up and we're having to make frames at a rate of knots. So it's brilliant. I have lost a couple of swarms, but such is life.
Indeed. Well, it sounds great. Sounds like you're having some fun with it as well. But holding it down with a proper job as well.
Yes.
So you've obviously got time management well and truly under control. Let's talk about this multi-guard then. You started off by thinking there's got to be a better way. How did you come up with the design for it?
So my father-in-law, I'm very fortunate. My father-in-law is Colin Toms, who is quite a renowned structural engineer. And I approached him 2023 and said, I've got this idea for making something a bit different on a beehive, and would you be interested in helping me? And we went through, well, Colin had to have a crash course in beekeeping, basically. He'd never done this. And what we ended up doing was listing all of the problems that happen throughout the year. So mice in winter, robbing in spring, wasp attacks and hornet attacks in autumn, and then pesticides. And we broke it down into the things that we're trying to protect the hive from. And then I showed him what I currently had to use, which was wood, sponge, gaffer tape, pins, a mouse guard that scrapes all the pollen off. And that's how it started. Let's make something that incorporates all of those things into a system.
Sure. Fantastic. And obviously, this is a podcast, so we ought to just try and describe this. And you're probably best placed to describe what it is we're talking about. So do you want to talk us through what the multi-guard actually consists of?
Yes, so the Hive-Five Multiguard, it's a permanent entrance block system designed obviously to make hive management easier and more effective for the entire beekeeping year.
Right.
It's a permanent entrance block that uses interchangeable screens that slide in and out instantly. That means that there's no need to disturb the bees or fight with an entrance block, and it's a one-size-fits-all invention, a design. The wings on the end of the entrance block mean that it will fit onto smaller and larger entrances. It won't fit every hive, but Nationals, Langstroths, Hyde Long hives, many more. And what the permanent entrance block comes with is 4 screens, and they can be swapped over instantly. So if we start in spring, there's a reduced entrance screen. We initially designed it for spring use, but several of our customers say that they keep it on into summer to while the colonies are building up. So it's quite a long entrance for them, 7 millimeters high and ventilated. Then into summer, you can take all screens off and have nothing if you like all summer.
Right. Yeah.
Into autumn, you then pop your wasp guard screen on. Now, this is my favourite one of the screens because we really, really worked on this. We designed it based on Dave Cushman's recommendation that drones can get through a 5.5 millimetre high hole. So we wanted to make it suitable for drones and bees, but such a small entrance hole that it was really easily defensible.
Okay.
We did find that, I don't know if it's this part of the world, but my drones are really fat. So we ended up adding a millimetre into that height just to ensure that there's no blockages from fat drones. The other thing that I'd noticed was that I get a lot of wasps. I'm on a soft fruit farm. You're going to get a lot of wasps.
Yeah.
And then I would need to put my treatments on, but I've still got wasps. And the packet says, open up the entrance fully to allow the vapours to escape. So what we've done is we've made it ventilated so that you can keep the entrance on and that the vapours can escape. And that way you're not exposing the bees to the wasp attacks.
Yeah.
Then we have into winter a mouse guard screen. Again, we've designed this to allow the bees to get in with their pollen so it doesn't get scraped off. But the holes are so small that it prevents mice even getting their jaws in to chew their way through.
Right.
And then the other thing we did with that is we made the entrances all the way along on the screen to try and prevent isolation starvation.
Sure.
And then the final screen is a fully closed screen. So I have to lock my bees in for various reasons, pesticide spray, painting, oiling the hive, or if I need to move it.
Yeah.
But I have a couple of polyhives and I once lost a hive to overheating. So again, we've made this completely ventilated. The screen's got ventilation all the way across the front.
Sure.
If you want to move the hive, pop that in, and put a couple of pins above the screen just to keep it in if you're going in a car. And those are the screens. And then it comes with a storage rack, which is actually part of the functionality because the storage rack sits underneath the entrance and means that nothing can get underneath the screen. So you couldn't get a mouse forcing its way under because you've got a blockage there. But it also has an extra function that when the screens are stored, so if you're using one of the screens, there's always at least 3 screens on the storage rack, they form a landing board for the bees.
Oh, neat.
And it also... so they if you haven't got a landing board, it's ideal. If you do have a landing board, then you can just store them wherever you like.
Sure.
But it also means that your equipment never gets mixed up. It's instantly available. So if you come back to your bees and you see they're getting robbed, you can, within seconds, protect those bees instead of having to go back to the shed and fight your way through everything. And then we added a few extra functions as we went along. We've made it into 6 colours so that you can pick the colour for your hive, but it also, as we know, the reason beekeepers paint their hives is to reduce drift.
Yeah.
And we're very conscious, I think a lot of beekeepers are very conscious of the environment and ecology. And so we've made everything using recycled materials. Everything's made in Kent. We haven't gone to China. Everything from the injection mold to getting the plastics is all made in Kent. And then we added UV stabilization so that it will last you for years. Beekeeping is an expensive hobby.
Yeah.
So let's make a piece of kit that will last you for years. And that's the Hive-Five Multiguard.
Fantastic. Thank you for describing all of the different entrances for me and for the people that are listening. So just to add a little bit to Natalie's description, I've just been hopefully not making too much noise in the background, but I've got a kind of tape measure on my desk here, and the entrance block itself, where it fits into the hive, is about 37 centimeters wide, and then it's got a couple of wings on the outside. So it's a molded construction which has got kind of like ribbing inside to make it sturdy. So the actual block that fits into the hive is a really strong construction. So it's not going to easily shift around, break, or move. So if it warms up, cools down, it's not going to flex terribly. And then it has these 3 holes in the wings that sit on the outside, which you can either use, I guess, drawing pins, or if you wanted it to be a bit more permanent, you could put screws in, which for me as a migratory beekeeper and an occasional migratory beekeeper, I would use screws to fit that in place so that I knew that it wasn't going to pop out when I was traveling. That's a really good feature of it. I've got the kind of dark blue version in front of me. I think you also let us have a white one. Is there a white one? What was the other colour that we had?
Well, we call it magnolia,
Sorry.
but I'm joking, of course. We were trying to think of sort of fancier names, and in the end, we thought, well, beige is beige. Let's just call it beige. There's no point calling it cappuccino. So, I think the one you have got is a white one.
Okay. Then looking at, well, let's start with the easy bit. So I've got the hanging bracket in front of me, and this has got 2 lugs, one on each end. There are several different holes drilled into it so that you can use those to fit it onto the floor. And then quite neatly, each of the entrances has a corresponding square hole at each end that fits over that. And as Natalie explained, they can be stored on that hanger beneath the entrance, and they form a very nice little landing board. Going through them one by one, as a beekeeper, just kind of playing around with these. The first one I've got in my hand is the ventilated closed entrance, which for me is really, really neat. It's the kind of thing that I need when I'm moving my bees. I need that ventilation through the entrance. Now, I know a lot of people will say, well, we've got open mesh floors, but actually with our poly hives, what I do find occasionally is that bees have propolized the bottom, and there's not a great deal of ventilation going through. So it's really important to have that ventilation. The entrance, what can we call it? Let's call them entrances, because that's what they are. The entrances that slot in measure approximately 36 centimeters, and they correspond with a couple of slots in the main block where it just slots into. It's as simple as that. One thing I did think about was, if I'm putting these colonies on my trailer and moving them, I'd want something above it, a pin or something, just to make sure that it didn't bounce out, because being a plastic construction, there's obviously no friction to hold it in place. So it's no big deal, but we'll have something to hold them in place. So we've got the ventilated closure. Again, if anyone's spraying chemicals and I need to close them down, then that would be a very good entrance to have. I'm kind of picking on the ones that are simple for me to talk about. There's one in particular, which I think is the wasp guard we'll talk about in more depth. The mouse guard is kind of an upside down castellated runner, really, with those small little entrances for the bees to come in. I like the fact that they're rounded at the top, which really helps with the bees getting in and out. Again, exactly the same dimensions as you would expect as the ventilated closure. Then there's the wider entrance. Is this what you would call your spring and summer entrance? Is this the
That's what we designed it as. For spring, obviously, when you've got the traditional wooden blocks, you'd put your reduced entrance on, you'd move
sure,
to that. But then I have also found that I was using, because we've been testing these for a couple of years,
right?
that after the wasps had gone, I was putting it on in autumn as well.
Okay,
So we call it the spring one, just because everybody
okay.
knows what that looks like.
So the entrance itself measures about, again, I'm kind of just not got an accurate ruler. It's about 14 centimeters wide, the entrance on
Yeah.
the, I'm going to call it the standard entrance, but each side of that entrance has got lots of holes for ventilation drilled in it. So that's really good as well. So the bees can get some decent ventilation going in. And now we come on to the interesting one for me, because at our local fishing lakes apiary, we have real problems with wasps. It's kind of like the local wasp hotel. We seem to just attract lots and lots of wasps. So we have an entrance block that has uh, a bee entrance of about just over 2 centimeters wide. And what was the height on it, Natalie? What did you?
6.5 millimeters.
Okay, so it's 6.5 precisely, 6.5 millimeters high. And then there are a row of holes that are all the way along the rest of the entrance, which again gives lots of ventilation. Now, when we spoke at the show, you were telling me that you could turn this around. Can you explain what you mean by that? So the entrance is on, as I'm holding it, is on my left-hand side, and then there's a row of holes. The bees,
So you can, so the bees will obviously, that's their entrance and exit, and the
yeah,
wasps, if they are attacking, will become used to where the entrance hole is.
right,
If you take that out and flip it so that the entrance hole goes to the other end of your entrance, you've moved your entrance hole. Now, we timed the bees and they took around 2 minutes to start using the new entrance hole,
okay,
whereas the wasps were still, thankfully, wasps are a bit stupid, and the wasps were still going to the original entrance hole, which is now blocked up.
right,
And just from experience with the wasps, the more you can confund them and baffle them and annoy them, the more likely they are to go away. So the thing with turning it is, some of my older wooden hives have degraded a little bit. So it's, if when you turn it, you find that there's now, because it's got a lip,
yeah,
you find that there's now a gap slightly behind it. Just pin it to,
okay,
put a little push pin in, and then you've sealed it all again. And it's very simple, but if you can do that once a week, once every few days when you're up there, it just keeps the wasps on their toes and
sure.
hopefully out the apiary.
No, absolutely. So let's talk about the website,
Yes.
because I've been onto the website, very informative, really clear, nice to see that there's lots of pictures as well. I see you've put some video on there as well, so there's some videos for people to see. And looking at the pictures, if you're listening to the podcast, go to www.hive-5.co.uk and have a look at the photographs that are on the front page, the home page, and it will explain instantly all of the waffle that I've just been trying to give you, and you'll see precisely how it all works. It's a really clever construction, and I think people will really take to it. I think it's got an awful lot to offer. So your website has got our story. I know it's, and I particularly wanted to pick up on this because it's not just you, is it, Natalie? You've got some people helping.
Absolutely. I have Colin, as I've mentioned, my father-in-law, and he takes the madness that goes on in my brain and makes sense of it and comes up with very sensible solutions. And then I also have Michael, my brother. He has been absolutely fantastic in this process. He's been with me from the start. What I'm very fortunate to have is somebody who not only can apply his graphic design skills to my website and make things look a lot better than I ever could, but he also did all of our CAD. So we knew the intellectual property was massively protected, and I can't really thank him enough for the 4 billion WhatsApp messages that we've sent to each other going, but what do you think of? And how do you think? Should we make it a bit longer? Which you would never have if you were employing, an outside agency. So I've just been really lucky with the team that we've got together, and we've got a really lovely process.
Can I talk a little bit about the, what do they call it? The elephant in the room, which is different size floors, different sized hives. The one that you've sent me, I guess, is for a national, is it? Or is it a
It,
Langstroth?
well, it'll fit both. This is the whole thing. It's one design that fits all of the different hive types. That was the aim that we had. So we worked out what the smallest entrance was, which for generally in the UK, it's the Maysmore Poly. Now, if you were to put this in a Maysmore Poly, you literally slide it in. It's super.
Right.
But then you've got the wider nationals and you've got the Langstroths. Now, this singular design will go into all of those
Okay.
because of the wings on the end.
Right.
If you have got a gap, the wings cover the gap. So with Langstroth, for example, the wings will stick out a little bit out of the entrance because obviously Langstroth hives are narrower, but
Sure.
there's no problem with just slicing those off if you don't want them on the front there.
Okay.
With a national, they're perfect. With a Maysmore, they're perfect. With a Hyde Long hive, they're perfect. The issue that we have is that there are so many hive types that we had to make a executive decision to fit the most popular ones that we could. And then our rationale and our intention is that we're going to make adaptations for those other hives that it doesn't quite fit.
That makes sense. And you're absolutely right. There are going to be certain hives out there that are the most popular, and they're the ones to target first. You've got a range of colours, and I'm just kind of looking on the website here: blue, green, white, yellow, a purple one as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And beige.
oh, beige/magnolia.
No, it's beige. Yeah, so yes. So you've got blue, green, white, or magnolia, depending
Okay.
on how fancy you're feeling.
Right.
Yellow, purple, and beige.
Sorry.
Um, no, that's fine. And the beige one, we didn't actually start off having as a idea. What I'd initially wanted was the mnemonic of "Will you ring Gary Barlow?" and of the Queen colours.
Right.
I know not everybody will say "Will you ring Gary Barlow?" but I'm Northern, so that's it. And but then of course we thought, well, no, they can't have red because bees don't see red. We need to keep them in the ultraviolet spectrum. We
Right.
need to make sure they're visible to the bees. And then it was a customer who said to me, I'd really like one that matched the colour of my hive. And so I went back to my manufacturer, who
Yeah.
are RE Knight in Kent, and I said to Ben, could we do that? And he said, yep, I'll give you some samples. And so we tried to colour match with hives,
Right.
and that's actually been my best seller.
Wow. How about that?
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, well, that's great. And looking on the website also, you've got a monthly newsletter that you send out that people can sign up for. I see at the bottom of the
Yes.
page.
It's coming.
Okay.
Launching a business. There's just been so much to do, but the newsletter is to be launched. I'll put it that way at the
Fantastic.
moment.
No, I know the troubles that trying to keep up with all of these different commitments, really. Social media is another one. You're on
Mhm.
Instagram and
Yes,
Facebook, I guess.
yes.
Anywhere
I'm
else?
Threads, TikTok,
TikTok. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
and YouTube.
Okay. Fantastic. And I guess if anybody is interested in talking to you about them, they can contact you via the website. You've got a link on the website somewhere that people can click on?
There most certainly is. Down at the bottom of the first page, you've got the sign up, and then right at the top, you've got a contact us page.
Okay. Cool.
Any questions, and you can just put that in there. The other way, of course, is just send me a message on social media or comment on one of the posts. And I'll get straight back. Well, I say straight back to you. As soon as I finish work, I'll get back to you.
Oh, absolutely. No, that's fantastic. And I guess the big question people will have on their minds, how much is Multiguard going to cost them currently?
So the entire set, and that includes even the pins to stick with it, stick it on with, sorry. And bearing in mind it's UV treated, so it will last you for a long time. Sure. We wanted to make it a reasonable price so that it wasn't prohibitive to people. I'm very much that beekeeping should be for everybody.
Yeah.
So a singular unit is $34.99.
Okay.
However, if you have several hives, we do have a permanent offer on the website where you'll save yourself around 15%. So if you buy 3, you get them for $89.99. So it works out about £30 each.
Cool. Fantastic. Yeah, and I think there's always been this challenge of trying to find the right entrance for the right time of year. I've got a box full of old galvanized mouse guards sitting somewhere out in the workshop that we've had, and you lose them and you try and work out what to do next. So you put foam in, and then the mice get through the foam, and the ensuing mess requires cleaning up in the spring. So to have everything in one place all ready to go. In fact, today we went to an apiary and I wanted to change the entrance that was in one of the hives. And of course, we didn't have what we needed. So I think this will be really useful for people, and it just makes an awful lot of sense. Well, I think we've probably covered everything that we need to, Natalie. Is there anything else that you can think of that you want to add, or are we there?
I think we've covered everything. If anybody has any questions, please just get in touch with me. If you're not sure that it will fit your beehive, then as Stewart said here today, we know the measurements inside out because we've worked for so long on them. Please just send me the measurements of your beehive and I'll tell you if it'll fit.
Fantastic. No, it's really good to have you on the podcast, Natalie. I wish you all the best with the new product. I think it's fantastic. I think people should go and take a look at it. And honestly, I think there's only one way that we can close the podcast. So I'm just going to say thank you for joining me once more, and we'll play a jingle.
When you need a little peace of mind that your bees are safe from dangers of all kind, pesticides, hornets, wasps and mice are no match for Hive-Five. The Hive-Five Multiguard is the best one in town. Keeps your bees safe all year round. The ultimate solution has been found. It's Hive-Five.
The Hive-Five Multiguard fits nearly all beehives and makes beekeeping much easier. Hive-Five.
Before you go, don't forget to check out my website, www.norfolk-honey.co.uk, and for my latest videos and podcasts with more updates, tips and techniques, it's the same Patreon page, www.patreon.com/Norfolk Honey. And remember, I'm Stewart Spinks, and that was Beekeeping Short and Sweet.